Update on UK detainees. Written by Free Gaza Movement July 5, 2009. We have just heard that at least 3 of the 6 British Free Gaza detainees are being put on a flight to London in the morning, due to arrive at Heathrow at 13:30. We are currently unable to make contact with the group, which has been moved to cells at Ben Gurion Airport Detention Center. Once we have confirmation that they are on the morning flight, we will post to our website, www.freegaza.org. If you live in the London area, please try and make it down to Heathrow to meet them. We expect to have journalists at the airport to report on their deportation, and we are trying to arrange for a press conference in London for later in the afternoon. Poem from Prison by Mered Maguire. Spirit of Humanity, July 10, 2009. As long as the people of Palestine have no liberty, no freedom, those of us with a voice to speak must speak. As long as the children of Gaza live in fear of Israeli bombs and occupation, those of us with a voice to speak must speak. As long as 6 million Palestinian refugees are deportees around the world, those of us with a voice to speak must speak. As long as millions of God's children are hungry, imprisoned, and without hope, those of us with a voice to speak must speak. Because it is in speaking we find our liberty, our freedom, and no prison bars can take away our peace, our love, which is the true spirit of humanity. For Gaza and the Palestinian people. Mered Maguire. Nobel Peace Laureate, in Ramall, Israeli prison, July 2009. The ship that wanted to break the blockade of Gaza, but was captured by Israel. Written by Eva Boss, July 17, 2009. On the 30th of June, the Israeli Navy boarded the Free Gaza boat Spirit of Humanity when it was approaching Palestinian waters off the Gaza Strip. The boat was towed to the Israeli port Ashdod, where the 21 persons on board were arrested. Only after almost a week had passed, they were released and deported to their respective countries of origin. The Spirit of Humanity, a tourist ferry from Greece, had left port of Larnaca on the 29th of June, loaded with 3 tons of medicine, toys, and building materials. It was the 8th attempt that the Free Gaza organization made to break the blockade on the Palestinian Gaza Strip, where a majority of the people are dependent on aid organizations for their survival. The borders are closed. The inhabitants cannot leave, and Israel only allows in the most necessary items for the inhabitants not to starve to death, including a symbolic sack of cement. Israel does not allow any import of material for rebuilding houses that had been destroyed during the war around the turn of the year, the rationale being that the material could be used for attacks on Israel by Hamas. Also on board were 21 Solidarity workers and journalists. Among them was the Irish Mered Maguire, who in 1976 won the Nobel Peace Prize, and American Cynthia McKinney, former Congresswoman. It was a second trip for both. The Palestinians in the Gaza Strip asked me to come back, and I promised to do so. Things have become worse since I was there last time. Israel has violated both international law and the Geneva Conventions. The world must not forget the Gaza Strip. They have to force Israel into lifting the siege, said Mered Maguire before setting off. The youngest on board was Adam Kvist, 23, from Denmark, who also went on his second trip. For me, this is a chance to come back. Last time I stayed 5 weeks and worked with the fishermen. The Israelis shot at us when we sailed out, but warning shots only. When we are not on board, it's more serious. All the fishermen here have scars from shots at their legs, he tells us. At night after their departure, they were contacted by the Israeli Navy, which threatened to open fire if they didn't turn around. The boat continued in spite of this, and in spite of its radar and navigation system being blocked. They tried to force us into Israeli waters, reports Dennis Healy, who navigated by the compass. But when the boat approached Palestinian waters, they were stopped. The boat was surrounded and boarded. They said we had been in Israeli-controlled waters since there is an embargo on the Gaza Strip, he adds. When the boat was towed into the port of Ashdod, the people on board were arrested on the grounds of having entered into Israel illegally. The Israeli authorities explained that humanitarian goods should legally be passed overland through Israel. But no building material is allowed. The Free Gaza organizers were indignant and held a press conference in Nicosia, Cyprus. They took the boat and the passengers against their will and brought them to Israel. This is illegal. They came from Cyprus through international waters. We want everyone to know that we did not violate any law. Where is the world, the UN, the EU? We only demand from Israel to follow the law, said Ramzi Kaiser. The boat was in the area that the Oslo Agreement grants to the Palestinians for fishing and economic development. The agreement was signed by the Palestinian leader at that time, Yasser Arafat, and Israel's Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, in 1993. The area has even been acknowledged internationally, states Ramzi Kaiser. It was the third time that Israel prevented a Free Gaza boat to approach the Gaza Strip. 2 times in last winter the boats were stopped with the explanation that there was a war going on. One of them, the Dignity, was rammed and damaged so severely that she later sank in the port of Larnaca, in Cyprus, before repairs had been finished. However, in the year before the Free Gaza boats made their way through to the Gaza Strip 5 times, where they were enthusiastically received. The first 2 boats broke the blockade in August 2008 and the organization views that event as a victory. When the boats went back, they had Palestinians on board, who were prohibited from leaving the country by the Israeli authorities. Students with scholarships abroad were a part of the group, as well as a boy who had lost a leg in a shell attack and hoped to get prostheses abroad. It was the first time boats reached the Gaza Strip for more than 40 years. A Palestinian attempt in 1988 failed, since somebody blew up the boat in the harbor of Limassol. Further boats were able to sail into the harbor of Gaza in October, November, and December, thus breaking the siege. On one of these boats the Palestinian parliamentarian Mustafa Barghouti from the West Bank was on board. This was his only way to visit the Gaza Strip. A group of European parliamentarians also went on the journey and came back with promises that they would do their best within the EU to lift the blockade. Hugh O'Donnell, member of the Liberal Democrats in the Scottish Parliament, was very upset about the distress he saw in Gaza. He told about broken dialysis machines that had to be dismantled in order to save spare parts for the only functioning one, and about a 2-month-old baby with a heart defect in an incubator and that would soon die because the Gaza Strip lacks medical resources. This is a shame. I only once saw a place that was similarly ghastly. This was Kosovo during the war, said O'Donnell. The Palestinian parliamentarian Mustafa Barghouti participated in one of the trips to the Gaza Strip last year in October. This was his only way to get there. Israel only exceptionally allows trips between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The last unsuccessful trips have not moved the Free Gaza group to surrender. They are now looking for new boats that can replace the captured Spirit of Humanity and the sunken Dignity. They hope to make a new attempt in some months. We have learned not to go with one boat only, therefore we are looking for at least 2 boats, says Greta Berlin. We are looking for a passenger boat and a cargo boat. The money for the boats is coming from donors from all over the world. The smallest sum someone donated was $1.50. The largest amount was $100,000. People give what they can in order to help the isolated Palestinians. The organization Free Gaza is politically independent and the boats are unarmed. Each time the boats are checked by the Cypriot authorities to make sure they do not import any weapons to the Gaza Strip. Free Gaza and Palestine. Hugh Araf. August 3, 2009 edition of The Nation. Last month I led a group of 21 human rights workers on a boat from Cyprus to challenge Israel's naval blockade of the Gaza Strip. We carried toys, medicine, olive tree saplings, toolkits, a 50-kilo bag of cement, and school supplies on our small converted ferry boat. At 2 a.m. on June 30th, almost 18 hours into the 230-mile journey, a colleague awakened me. The Israeli Navy was calling our boat on the VHF radio. You are navigating toward a blockaded area. You are hereby ordered to change your course. If you do not, we will be forced to use all necessary force to stop you. Nervous after a previous boat of ours was dangerously rammed at sea in December by the Israeli military, I replied, Israeli Navy, this is Arian, the registered name of our ship, Spirit of Humanity. We are 21 unarmed civilians carrying aid for the Palestinian people of Gaza. Any blockade on Gaza is unlawful as you are the occupying force in the territory, and are therefore responsible for the well-being of the civilian population there. As our boat, its cargo, and the 21 civilians on board, do not constitute any kind of threat to Israel or its armed forces, you are obliged to allow us entry. We are proceeding to Gaza. Do not use force against us. Shortly thereafter all navigational systems were disabled for nearly 4 hours as the warnings continued. In their final warning to us, the Israeli Navy threatened to open fire. Israeli Navy, we are unarmed civilians, do not use force against us. Do not shoot. We did not stop. We were boarded by force. Before we were separated, I saw Navy forces grabbing my husband, Adam, around the neck. He is a filmmaker who has made documentaries from Palestine to Darfur. Later I learned that outside of my view, these government-sanctioned pirates pummeled Adam, in order to wrest his video camera from his grasp. Though I know it could not have been easy for him, Adam did not fight back. He was a multisport athlete in high school, throughout Manny Ramirez stealing second, and is one of those rare individuals who bring a football player's intensity to piecework. But like the rest of us, Adam insists on using non-violent means to resist Israel's military occupation. And though in his widely hailed Cairo speech President Obama made an implicit call for non-violence as the means to challenge the Israeli occupation, the Obama administration made no public statement on our behalf, nor did it do so 3 months ago, when my dear friend Bassem Abdulrahim was killed, while non-violently protesting Israeli expansionism in the West Bank that threatens to destroy his village of Berlin. My colleagues and I invested time and energy in this difficult journey, and put our lives at risk, because for too long the international community has been complicit in Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people. For too long, diplomats and world leaders have paid lip service to Palestinian human rights. For too long, the Palestinian people have been told to wait, in the checkpoint line, on the peace process, to have your rights recognized, and for freedom. Students I met on a recent successful voyage to Gaza certainly did not want to wait to be slowly suffocated and drained of their dreams. So desperate were they to escape their confinement in Gaza to obtain higher education abroad, that they asked us to drop them in international waters and they would swim the rest of the way to Cyprus. This was youthful madness, but indicative of how trapped people in Gaza are today. I was born in the blanket of freedom of the United States. My parents immigrated here, knowing that I could not be free in my homeland. But today I use my freedom to struggle as a Palestinian for my friends and relatives who endure the yokes of occupation, oppression, discrimination, exile, internment, and apartheid. Most Palestinians in the occupied territories have not lived a day free of Israel's occupation, and Palestinian citizens of Israel continue to live as a discriminated against minority. Just the other day, Israel's housing minister, Violates, declared, "We can all be bleeding hearts, but I think it is unsweetable for Jews and Palestinians to live together in Israel." This is the Israel the United States funds with billions each year. Under the leadership of President Obama, or any American president, support for this sort of raw bigotry makes no sense, and is antithetical to our most cherished principles. Yet when Israeli leaders utter such contemptible language it is ignored. When Israeli soldiers fire lethal weapons at unarmed, peaceful protesters it is too often ignored. When Israeli naval boats become pirate ships, boarding a vessel that poses them no threat, arresting and beating American citizens, it is ignored. It is ignored, and Israel continues to enjoy the patronage of the United States and to present itself as a moral beacon for the world. But my generation finds racist language like that audacious and the actions that result from such outdated thinking abhorrent.